Good morning. This is our Sunday morning catch up. This is our second episode. This is going over our lesson for this Sunday. I want to, like I've said, for those of you that aren't able to join us for Sunday school, I still want to bring you something that you're able to watch, something you're able to review that keeps you kind of going with our Sunday school lessons. And so today we are in Second Samuel 6, 1 through 22. So if you have your Bible, make sure you have read 2 Samuel 6, 1 through 22. I'm not going to kind of go through the entire lesson right now, or no, I'm not going to go through the entire passage right now. I'm just going to pick out a couple things that I wanted to highlight when reading through these passages. And then Cameron is preaching it right now live on Sunday morning, and I wanted to touch on a couple things that I see that are pretty vital. And the first one is kind of like the title of what I see is, do you fear man or do you fear God? And that's kind of what we see in this passage, because this passage is almost separated into two sections. And so to give you a little bit of context, we have David, and he is now the king. Last week we looked, and he was running away from Saul, who was currently the king, and now David is the king of Israel. And he finally gets the Ark of the Covenant, the place where the Lord sits for their tradition and for what they do. It's been in the tabernacle, and then it's been captured by opposing Philistines and stuff like that. And so they get the Ark of the Covenant back. And David is taking it into Jerusalem, into the city of David, and he is going to put it on display and put it up there. And so what we have to remember, though, is David is taking this Ark of the Covenant back. And when we looked in Numbers and we looked at Exodus, there are rules for doing what he's doing. And David's kind of not following all these rules. One of the rules is you don't put the Ark of the Covenant on a cart. And then you don't allow anyone to touch the Ark of the Covenant. And as soon as someone touches the Ark, they'll die. And so it's on this cart that David has approved, and it's going through the cities, and David's losing it. David's so happy. David's so excited. And the cart starts to wobble, and it starts to fall off the Ark starts to wobble and starts to fall off the cart. And a man named Uzziah grabs up and holds it still and touches it and is immediately struck dead. Everyone's freaking out. Everyone's scared. And David even says that he's scared and he's angry. He's angry that the Lord struck someone down. But the more that he thinks about it and the more that he talks about it, the more he understands that this is what we have to understand. God has rules in place. God has systems that he has laid out, and he has told us these systems in the same way here. And so God striking down Uzziah is not out of, I was angry at Uzziah. It's that the people did not follow what God has listed in there. And I also believe that a lot of times that in this story, David wasn't putting the right fear in God. That he was kind of just treating God as like a really cool friend and like, oh, look, friend, I got this thing for you. Rather than understanding that God is all-powerful and an all-knowing, omnipotent, omniscient being. And it even says in the passage that David was afraid. And so they store this ark into someone's house, and they're like, let's just dump it here. We're terrified. We don't know what else to do. And so while that it is in someone else's house, that house has brought so much fortune, that house has brought so much prosperity. And that's the first part of the story. And what I want to highlight here is our view of God matters. Treating God as a small best friend or treating God as someone we can push to the side, that's not who he is. And we have to always respect and fear him and understand, not be afraid of him, but fear his power and respect his power and worship his glorious and beautiful name. And that's kind of the first part of the story that we see, is that David did not have the correct fear, the correct respect for the Lord in this moment, because he wasn't following the rules that the Lord has set ahead of him. He wasn't doing the things that God had asked him to do, and he was getting so wrapped up in his victory, in David's victory of getting the ark, that he wasn't really considering the fact that there was more at play, and we have to always be glorifying the name of the Lord. Because the second part of the story we see is that they roll into the city, and they started doing everything properly, started doing everything correctly, started doing the sacrifices they need to do. And they roll into the city, and David is excited. they said he's dancing and he's grooving and he's moving in the city. And Michal, David's wife, his first wife, the wife who's the daughter of Saul, looks out and it says that she has contempt in her heart for David, that she is angry at David. And a couple times in the passage, it doesn't call her the wife of David. It calls her the daughter of Saul. And so this is a way that the author is showing us that there is hatred in Michal's heart, that there is contempt in Michal's heart, and there's a lack of faith. There's faithlessness. Why do we see that? How do we see that? Not only because of her actions, but because of the author saying that she is a daughter of Saul, showing that just like her father, she is not truly putting her faith and trust in the Lord. And so she gets upset at David. She gets upset at David for being excited and being happy. And the way they would dance back there is you would probably remove a lot of your outer clothing to dance. And she says that you're frolicking along the streets naked and all these other things. And David's response is used in a lot of praise songs, but he said, I'm going to get way more undignified than this. I'm going to get way more crazy than you've ever seen because I'm excited for the Lord. And I think I want to pause right here and reflect on this because I've had this heart of Michal sometimes. I've had this attitude of Michal sometimes where someone else is getting excited about the Lord and I get jealous. I get upset. I should be doing that. I wish I was doing that. I wish I felt that. And so a lot of times I try to put them down rather than build them up. As Christians, we are a body. We're united. And we should be helping and guiding and loving each other. And not saying, oh, can't believe you're doing this. And that's what we see in the heart of Michal. Her faithlessness, instead of being excited for David and the ark and that it's brought into the city and it's finally in Israel's control, she's contemptible. She's angry. She's just sour in everything she's saying and doing. And so I think this is something we have to understand is that David is saying, I don't fear man. I don't fear what you think about. I don't fear your thoughts about me. I fear what the Lord thinks about me. And this is the second part. Do you fear God as we see in the beginning of the story? Or do you fear man as Michal's hoping that David fears her opinion or respects what she's saying even though it's contrary to what the Lord has? And so I think this is something that's important for us to remember is that the way that God thinks of us is way more important than the way man thinks of us. And if we're doing the things that we are called to do, that we will be called like David, a man after God's own heart. And that's the goal, to be someone who reflects the image of Christ, to be someone who people see, as Paul talked about, imitating God and imitating me as I imitate God. A lot of times I don't live that kind of life. I don't live a life where I can say, hey, live exactly like me, because I'm not doing the things that I should of the Lord. But part of that is taking God out of his perspective. That a lot of the reasons why I sin and I do the things that I want to do, and I'm not a man after God's own heart, is because I've changed the perspective and I've put myself higher than God. I put my own wants and desires above God's, and I've taken him out of his powerful place of the number one thing in my life. And so that's kind of what it gets down to. And we see that Michal is struck barren and she has no more kids the rest of her life. And part of that is her faithlessness and that she was putting David down, and David didn't let it stop him. He didn't let her zap his joy. He didn't let her get on his case. He said, no, I follow the Lord. I love him. I care for him. And so I kind of want to wrap up this Sunday morning catch-up with this. It matters how you behave for the Lord. It matters what you say for the Lord. It matters what you think about the Lord, because that drives the rest of your actions and the way you're living. And so I think we're so consumed with what our friends are going to think if we do this, or what our family's going to think if we do this, or what are people going to say if I do this. And I think we need to understand that we have to be more concerned with the all-powerful, almighty creator of the universe and what we're supposed to be doing for him. So I challenge you this week to get into your word, to get into the Bible, because that's the thing, is that we could even say that David wasn't following the rules of the Lord in the beginning part of this chapter because he didn't understand and didn't study and didn't look at the things of God. It didn't truly know who God was. We have that ability to know who God is. Spend time in your word. Spend time in the Bible. Spend time in prayer, finding out who God is, and then truly seeing how powerful and amazing he is. And then through fear, through respect, through wonder, praising him and not worrying about what other people say. So, hope you have a great week. On the 16th, we're doing Mountaintop Wednesday in person. I hope you can be there. Before that, September 13th, we're starting our Fun Day nights back up. 5 to 5:45, that's youth choir. 5:45 to 6:15 is dinner. And then 6:15 to 7 is junior high is going to be doing the table. Junior high is going to be doing the court. High school doing the table. Those are different kind of studies we're going through. So I hope you can be there on the 13th for Fun Day nights. And then we'll have the 16th for Mountaintop. But thank you for watching this video. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Ta-ta.